Hi, welcome to the Black Spruce Knitting Podcast. My name is Allie and I am coming to you from Vermont on a very gray and rainy day. And I'm going to talk about some of my knitting that I've been working on recently. I know it's been a few weeks. I have been knitting, but I've been knitting pretty much monogamously, so one project at a time, which has been really satisfying for me. So I don't have too much to show. I have one finished object, one work in progress, and a spinning project, but I'm excited to show it to you, so hopefully you'll enjoy. I also have some footage from my daily life. I tried to shoot a vlog this weekend, but it ended up a little chaotic, so I don't think I'm going to post it, but I will add some of that footage to this episode at the end if you're interested in seeing that. I know that a lot of people are doing Vlogmas right now, and I was going to do Vlogmaka since I'm Jewish, but I think that it's nice just to add a little bit for me rather than to do a full vlog. So yeah, I will just hop right into it. So I have a finished object, which is my Rock Island Line sweater by Jane Howorth, which I knitted for my partner, Chris. I made this out of this gray yarn, is Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok worsted in the colorway cast iron. And then this marled blue yarn is from Junction Fiber Mill. It is their Making Tracks line, and it is in the colorway, I think the deep end or in the deep, I always get mixed up. But I purchased it when I did a little mill tour, and I need to contact them because I want to visit again and do a Q&A with your questions. But I did a mill tour, which I will link to, and I picked up a lot of yarn when I was there. They have this really beautiful marled yarn that they dye and that they have the equipment to spin. Junction Fiber Mill is owned by two women. And they're actually selling their yarn at the Woolly Thistle now, which I think is really cool. So it might be a little bit more accessible to you. And it's just a really beautiful yarn. It's non-superwash. I used two different skeins, and you can sort of see there wasn't actually that much similarity. So there's definitely a bit of a stripe here where I switched skeins, but I don't mind it at all. I really love these colors. And this sweater is a bottom-up raglan. So I knit the body and then I knit two sleeves, and it's in a broken rib pattern. It's a 7x1 broken rib for most of it, but then it switches to a 3x1 broken rib, which I think is quite a nice detail. There is also some regular ribbing for the cuffs, and I added a folded over neckline since I like the way that that fits Chris. So I have blocked this. It's interesting. I think it fits more nicely now that it's been blocked, because I blocked the shoulders to be a little bit bigger. Chris has, I think, sort of like slightly broader shoulders. I've knit Chris a circular yoke and a seamed set and sleeve sweater. I love the way that the set and sleeve fits. The raglan, I'm not 100% convinced. I just think that the seamed is just like the most flattering sweater type that I've knit for them. But I do, now that it's blocked, really like the way that it fits. So my only sort of concern with this is that the arms are too long. And so I knit the arms separately, so I'm not gonna go back and fix them, because I would have to like tear out the whole sweater effectively. And they're not too long, but when I was knitting them, I was asking Chris and I was like, do you think these need to be longer? Are they long enough? And they kept saying, oh, maybe a little longer. I really like having longer sleeves. And I remember saying, I think that when I block it, they're gonna be too long, but I knit them longer anyways, and I was right. They are a little too long. Which is okay, it's not the end of the world, but I think it was a good reminder that I should generally trust my knitting instinct. So I knit this, I went down a needle size, so I believe that I knit this on size US 5 needles, and I think I did size US 3 for the cuffs and the ribbing. I'm trying to think what else. I didn't make any other modifications other than the neckline. Yeah, I don't know that there's too much else to say about this. I really liked this pattern, even though I am not 100% convinced on the raglan for Chris's body type. I think it's a great basic. It's definitely adaptable. I think a lot of people have done it in solids, and I think it looks really nice in solids. And you know, you could change the stripes. You don't have to do these little mini stripes. You could do more stripes. You could really do a lot with this. And the broken rib is pretty simple, but it's a nice detail, but I didn't find it at all tedious to knit. So I think I would definitely recommend this pattern. I thought it was really well written. It was really clear. There were like a few questions I had. You have to connect the arms, and I thought that they needed to match up in pattern to the body, until I realized that because of the raglan, it doesn't actually matter. So I had to I made things more complicated for myself than they needed to be. But I would say that overall, it's really quite a nice pattern. You know, I think sometimes it can be a challenge to find more masculine patterns, because a lot of patterns are written for more feminine aesthetic. And so I'm always on the lookout for good masculine patterns. If you ever have a recommendation, please feel free to let me know. Which reminds me, thank you so much for all of the ideas on fixing the shawl from my last episode. I haven't touched it yet. I'm just putting it away for a while, but I really appreciated them. I try to answer all comments. Sometimes I miss them. I have a bunch to go back and answer, or at least I read every single comment. And I'm always so appreciative, especially when you all share your thoughts. So I think this was a really nice knit for Chris. I do think that they're gonna wear it all the time, and I would actually potentially make it again. I think it's pretty fun in this marled yarn. I was gonna do a color work pattern with it, but I had trouble meeting gauge, and I just thought I'm just gonna do something simple that really lets this beautiful yarn shine. So yeah, that is my finished object. So the next thing that I have to share is both an acquisition and my work in progress. I have been spending more time in Montreal recently, since it's only about 2 hours from where I live. It's the closest large city. It's closer than Boston. And so I've been spending more time there, which has been really nice. Lots of good restaurants, lots of wonderful shops and parks, and it just feels good to be there. And I was with my dad visiting, and I decided to go to Espace Tricot, where I haven't been before. It is a yarn store in Montreal that also publishes a lot of free patterns that you might be familiar with. And my poor father waited for like 45 minutes in the car while I looked at everything and thought a lot and couldn't make up my mind. And eventually I decided that I wanted like a Quebec yarn, because I felt like that was special, although there is a lot of yarn that I would like to go purchase there. They have De Rerum Natura Ulysse, which I had never seen before, and it was so nice, since people talk about it, to feel it. But I did get some very special yarn, and I think it's gonna be mirrored, but they gave me this bag with my purchase that says Je ne regrette rien, which is French for I regret nothing, like that Edith Piaf song, which I thought was really funny and appropriate. They were also so nice and so helpful. I had such a fun yarn experience there. Highly recommend stopping if you're in Montreal. But I got 3 skeins of their house brand, which is called Bone Tricot. I think it might be new. I think the owner dyes it. And I got this Happy 4-ply, which is a fingering weight yarn in the color Robin's Egg Blue. And this yarn is 60% Exmoor Blueface, 20% Corriedale, 10%, I am not sure how to pronounce this sheep breed. I tried to look it up. I think it's Swartblay, or Zwartblos. I looked them up. They're like a little black sheep. And then it's 10% nylon, which I think is sort of an interesting decision, and I assume was made to make this appropriate for socks, but I'm not knitting a sock with it. So I got 3 skeins of this, but then I also got the matching mohair. So I have actually never made a project with mohair. I have a little bit in my stash, but I've never used it. I think I've been a little bit opposed to it just because it's like spending more money on yarn, and I know that it's quite popular. I feel like I'm a little bit late to the party, but I just felt really excited about getting 3 skeins of each. And I thought that I was going to use this to make an Espace Tricot free pattern. But then I thought to myself, I have this book by Emily Foden called Knits About Winter. You might have seen this book before, and I thought, I really want to make the soiree in this book. Could I use this yarn to make the soiree? You might have seen this pattern before. It's quite popular, but it is absolutely beautiful. And I haven't made anything from this book yet. I'm planning to do this, the East Wind jacket, with this yarn that I bought at Junction Fiber Mill. But you hold a mohair for this jacket, and because I've never knit with mohair, I don't know if it is appropriate for me to wear all day, or if I have like a reaction to it. So I felt like it would be good to do a smaller like test project before committing to this really big one, because I could always make it without mohair as well. So I decided to knit the soiree, and I swatched, and I realized why everyone loves knitting with mohair. It's pretty delicious. Again, I know I'm a little late to the party. This has been years that it's been, I think, back in style, and a lot of patterns are written for it. But what can I say? Sometimes I kind of just miss the memo a bit. This pattern is recommended to have 12 to 16 inches of ease, but I was like, that feels like a lot. At first I thought I was gonna knit the 3rd size, which would have been 9 inches of ease for me. And then I was like, okay, well, I will knit the 4th size. I will say I don't find these patterns terribly size inclusive. I believe this one goes up to 67 inches, and with 12 to 14 inches of ease, that's not a very large size range, which is disappointing, but hopefully something that they could fix. So basically I ended up knitting the 4th size, but sticking to size US 6 needles. And then I got like this far and I was like, I don't want this, and I tore it all out. But I have started again, and I have gotten further than I got before. And so I'm back to my original plan, which is that I am knitting the 3rd size and using size US 7 for kind of a drapier fabric. And I am enjoying this knit so much. I have been kind of, you know, I'd like to be knitting slowly, but I've been kind of blasting through it because I just am having so much fun doing it. For me, the mohair is a new texture. I love this color. I don't usually go for blues, but this color, this Robin's Egg Blue, is sort of desaturated and like closer to gray, which I love, and pale, and feels so wintry and beautiful. I just love this, and so it's been such a blast so far. And it's not very complicated. I will say with this yarn, I thought that it had my dog's hair in it because I kept noticing little black hairs, but I think that one of the sheep breeds, I think it's the Zwartbles, I think actually has black wool. And so it makes the yarn, like, you probably won't be able to see. It makes the yarn heathered and interesting, and it has a lot of depth. And I love like a gray toned color. Like, I don't love generally like super saturated colors. I tend to like things that are like, you know, if you were mixing colors and you mix two colors across on the color wheel, it will tone down the saturation. So think blue mixed with a little bit of orange. That's how you might mix this color. And I think it's just such a beautiful shade. Yeah, it just reminds me of like a stormy winter sky. And so I'm really excited about this. Again, I ripped out like this much. So I definitely like knitting it because I didn't mind ripping that out, and then I just started straight again. And I'm happy, I think, with this sizing. It's definitely going to be a lot of ease. It should be about 9 or 10 inches of ease, but maybe even a little bit more. But I think that that will look nice for the way that the pattern is written. I haven't changed anything. Hopefully this will block down to be a little bit less of a rolled hem, but I quite like the rolled hem for this piece. So pretty excited about my soiree. I actually have been wanting to knit like everything from this book. Here, I'll show you a few more pictures. Here is the texture of the East Wind jacket, which is going to be probably my cast on in 2023. This snowdrift shawl to use up any leftover mohair, which maybe I'll have now that I'm knitting with mohair. These Persephone mittens and also the mitten liners. I don't know that I would make this, but I actually really love the silhouette of this frost sweater. To me, this type of layering really feels like it works for where I live and the temperatures here. Again, I know that this book is pretty popular and you might have seen it, but it's beautiful. I don't know, there's just like, I just feel like she nailed the way that I often want to dress during the winter to stay warm, especially when I'm on outdoor excursions or when I am curling up inside by the fire. So I will say, I thought about maybe even doing a knit along for Emily Foden's patterns and purchasing some prizes, but I don't know if that many people would participate, and I'm not using Instagram, so I don't know if it made sense. But if I were to do it, I would call it Knit Along About Winter. Tell me if you would be interested in participating, because if at least a couple people would, then I would love to do one, but I don't know. I rarely do knit-alongs. So this is really the one piece that I'm working on, and I think I'm gonna try to just knit monogamously on this, and hopefully in a few weeks I will be done and I can show you. I realized that I can actually show you what my next cast on is going to be. Before I do the East Wind jacket, I would like to finish this, wear it, see how the mohair wears for me, and then I am going to knit the Versal by Ailbíona McLochlainn. I have this gorgeous Nutiden that I bought about a year ago in the colorway Dvala, and I have swatched for it. So I am new to working with unspun yarn, lots of new things. It's definitely, I mentioned in my last podcast that after finishing knitting my wedding dress, I was hitting a little bit of a slump. And I do intend on weaving as soon as my back is back to near 100%, but knitting, doing like new material is also helping me feel really excited about knitting again. But again, you're probably familiar with Nutiden because a lot of people knit with it. It's unspun yarn, and I had been planning to make the Versal for a while, but then I saw another one of Ailbíona's patterns that I want to say is called Harvest, but I can't remember. But I fell in love with it. It's this like steeked blouse with like a little bit of like a button band, and I did actually swatch for that as well. But I thought that for this colorway, I actually really want the Versal, which is a really simple, I mean, I think it's kind of deceptively simple. I think it has like a lot of interest and some interesting construction, but I wanted just plain stockinette. I didn't want a lace pattern. And I don't know, I mean, this was like a tiny little swatch, but I don't know that the lace is completely reading here. I still would like to knit this, but I think it actually needs, I think it needs a different color of Nutiden or potentially Pluto Lopi. So I swatched this first, and then I thought, okay, I think I'm gonna swatch just stockinette, and I love this like subtle green with little bits of like rust and gray. And so when I finish the Soiree, I'm going to knit the Versal. And I'm really excited about that. I think I'm gonna do a mock neck. I have to decide what neck size, but it'll be new for me to knit with Nutiden. I wound a lot of it into balls. But yeah, I was gonna knit this first and then knit the Soiree, but I just got too excited about that blue. But I think this will be like the perfect end of the year pattern, depending on timing. And then after this, I would like to knit the East Wind, and then we'll see. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I don't have any other acquisitions. I do have one skein of hand spun that I want to show you. So I took a carpentry class last summer in the Mad River Valley, which is a valley like community area here in Vermont, at a place called Yestermorrow. It was carpentry for women, and I think also, you know, carpentry for women and also non-binary folks. But there was a mill nearby called Mad River Fiber Mill that I had wanted to go to, and I stopped by on my lunch break one day and I bought some local Icelandic roving and some local Shetland roving. This is the Icelandic, and I spun it up. And I haven't been spinning too much recently. I actually had left this on my wheel and not touched it for a few months, so it was nice to finish it and then ply it just a regular 2-ply. It's not the most consistent yarn, but I think it's really beautiful. I'm definitely feeling more excited about experimenting with different breeds of sheep. Icelandic yarn, they usually keep those guard hairs, which maybe you can see. They're these like long kind of stiff hairs. They usually keep them in the yarn, which is why sometimes it can be scratchy, like if you think about Let Lopi, but also really, really warm. And I will say, I actually find this softer than Let Lopi. And I don't know if that's just, I don't know if that's just because of how I spun it. I love Let Lopi, and I'm going to knit myself another Let Lopi sweater, and I'm gonna knit another one for Chris. I'm a big Let Lopi fan, but it's very scratchy. But it was because the staple length was so long, so like the length of each like hair of wool is so long, it's really easy to spin. It just kind of almost spins itself. So it was a really fun project, and I have a little bit more on the wheel. I'll put in some footage at the end of me doing a little bit of plying. And I think I'll have maybe about 200 yards of this all together, which I'm hoping will be enough for, if not a hat or some mittens, to maybe combine with something else. Because I think this will be warm, and I love knitting with hand spun. So this isn't really an acquisition. This is, but it's some spinning. So yeah, I haven't really bought any yarn other than that Bone Tricot from Espace Tricot, but I am trying to spin a little bit since I have a little bit of a fiber stash now. Usually I don't keep too much fiber around for spinning because I get overwhelmed, but I have more, which is great because the nights are long here and at this time of year, and it's cold, and it's nice to keep the fire roaring and just spin. So that is all of the knitting that I have to share with you. Thank you so much for watching. My voice is getting a little hoarse, but I'll hopefully be back in a few weeks once I have finished the Soiree and cast on the Versal, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about those projects, and maybe I'll be planning up my East Wind, and I will share a little bit more about that. I like want to knit like 5 projects from Knits About Winter. So yeah, not as much, not as like many projects, but you know, that's what I've made. You know, I think sometimes there can be a lot of pressure to like make lots of things, so we have a lot of things to show, and I'm trying to just sort of be easy and gentle and knit the things that are, as we love to say, bringing me joy, and these projects have all brought me a lot of joy. So I will add some vlog footage from Sunday. We went to go get a Christmas tree. I am Jewish and was raised not celebrating Christmas, but my partner was raised Catholic, as was my best friend, one of my best friends, Audrey, who I often celebrate with. And we got an enormous tree. It is so big, it does not fit where the tree went last year, but it's pretty funny. And then Audrey brought us to a bog, and yeah, we had a really nice time, and I'm excited to show you some of this footage. So thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon, and wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are enjoying December and taking really good care. Bye. So I did not get an advent calendar this year, but I did get one for Darwin. I got this in Montreal a few weeks ago. I will say, I think every treat is the same, but Darwin doesn't care that much, especially because he has been on steroids for a really bad ear infection, and they have made him extremely hungry. So he is really enjoying this. So Darwin, are you ready? You want a treat?
that face for? I don't think you do a bog now. We're gonna go to a special bog.
Cool.
Somewhere else. Huh?
Secret bog.
There's a pitcher plant.
Really?
Where?
Right there.
Oh. The big red leafy guy? Yeah, cool. Allie, I was saying you guys can go further in if you want. I'm just gonna stay here because I don't have boots on.
Cool. I probably won't go too far.
I'm not going super far. I'm not sure if I'm good. Oh, it looks great. Yeah. It's really cool. Super pretty. Must love bugs.
Do you want to introduce yourself? You don't have to.
I'm Audrey. I got glasses recently.
They look amazing.
Thank you. We are at a bog. There's lots of cool plant life here. And it's really pretty and quiet and lovely.